Is it Will Graffenstein? Okay. Will Graffenstein. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak. My name is Will Graffenstein, and I'm here on behalf of myself and many people concerned about the constitutionality of state and federal government. As many of you know, we are a nation based on a balancing act of federalism and states' rights. But unfortunately, after the post-Civil War restoration, we as a nation have been on a slippery slope of giving in more power to the federal government. From federal income tax to the Prohibition era to the progressive era of people like Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, and FDR, we have seen more and more power being taken from us as a state and every state nationwide given to those in Washington. And for the past at least 20 years and 3 presidential administrations, we have reached a tipping point. Now, in the era of stimuli, bailouts, and federal health care mandates on Capitol Hill, we are now being given a ride of an onslaught of usurping power of the state and giving it to those on Washington. Now, currently, the Founding Fathers and our founding documents are not being realized. As a result, I believe that Bill 7030 will help to reaffirm, as a state, our sovereignty, and not just on issues ranging from bailouts and stimulus and health care, but also local issues. As many of you representatives know, the LNG Weaver Cove project has been something constantly in the news for the East Bay. Now recently, because of a court decision and because of a Federal Energy Regulatory Committee insistence, we may be on the precipice of having an LNG project right in the middle of Mount Hope Bay because of federal power, taking away the power of the state to reject such a notion. That is why, just one example, one local example, why this bill has to go through. Because unless we do, the state of the independent man will have its sovereignty stripped away, and we will be losing, really, everything that the founders fought for. So that is why I insist that this bill be taken a serious look at, so that future issues can be solved on the state level and not because of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Next, Robert Newton from the town of Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I will be brief, though I could be very long. The current growth of the federal government and its micromanagement of nearly every aspect of American life is based on a deliberate misinterpretation of the Commerce Clause by FDR's stacked Supreme Court in the 1940s. Previous attempts to do such a thing under the guise of the New Deal were struck down by the Supreme Court several times during the 1930s. Thanks to FDR and his, as I said, stacking of the Supreme Court, we have arrived where we are today, where things like the LNG terminal, which is being done over the dead bodies of both governors and both legislatures of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, the carbon tax, which is currently pending in Congress, the hijack of our entire healthcare system by the federal government, and this new executive order establishing a, quote, governor's council to direct the National Guards directly from the president. These kinds of things being done by the federal government will, if they continue, make this building, and I'm afraid all of you, not to mention all of us, irrelevant. The bill that's being proposed by Trillo and others is actually a fairly mild form of this kind of resolution, as Trillo pointed out. A stronger form would be to add a clause that puts the federal government on notice that Rhode Island will defend its rights under the 9th and 10th Amendments of the Constitution, if necessary, by filing suit in Supreme Court preemptively before one of our citizens is charged with a crime and has to go through the appellate process. An even stronger form, I would refer you to Article 8 of a document called the Kentucky Resolutions, which were written by Thomas Jefferson in the early 1800s. If you'd like, I can send you a copy of that. It's quite long. Article 8 of the Kentucky resolutions actually provides for nullification by the states of any unconstitutional laws. I'll just finish by raising one quote by James Madison from the Federalist Papers, in which he wrote, "The ambitious encroachment of the federal government on the authority of the state governments would be signals of general alarm. But what degree of madness could ever drive the federal government to such an extremity?"
Yeah.
Thank you.
Doesn't really pertain to this, but you tell me, how much did John Lawson pay you to wear that pants?
Nothing. I'm actually freely and voluntarily helping out my friend Rick Paul.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, Roland LaValle from Providence. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Rep. Trillo. I'll be very brief. I have a copy of what I'm going to read from, if you want me to read it to you after. I'm just going to read the first paragraph, and it's kind of like the dummy's guide to the 10th Amendment. And what it says is that the powers not delegated to the U.S. by Constitution nor prohibited by the state are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. It says, but a truism that is all retained has not been surrendered. I take that to mean that if we reaffirm our states' right and we don't surrender them to the federal government, we'll always have that in our power and not to the federal government. And you know, with the health care bill, we see that we're not getting fair representation in Washington by Senator Whitehouse and Senator Reid. They appear to think that, you know, the Senate version of the bill is nothing but a big cookie session. And that's where we need people in our General Assembly in the state to reaffirm our rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions for Roland? Thank you, Roland.
Okay.
Mark Zaccaria from North Kingstown.
Very much.
I can't look much younger without the beard.
Yes, I got about 2 pounds of hair.